What's up, YouTube? This is another episode of my space weather news. Today I have noticed a spike in density, a moderate spike, but it is there nonetheless. And I will come to this back later. Looking at the speed, we see a sustained 450 kilometers a second, which indicate we are still in a fast moving solar wind stream. Another thing actually that caught my attention, that is when that spike happened, the temperature dropped. And this indicates of slower moving particles, and I will show that later on. But first, let's take a look at the corona hole. There is, of course, a corona hole, a southern one, and from this one, a solar wind stream will reach us the 1st of March. Looking at the Enlil spiral, we can indeed see that it is actually predicted on the 1st in impact with that solar wind, which is actually not the densest one. This is actually low in density, but most notably, it is a very slow moving solar wind stream. We are talking barely 300 kilometers a second, as you can see here on the velocity. So this will be a weak impact indeed. Coming back to that density, which I just showed you. So there is actually a drop in temperature, but a rise in density. And it doesn't really show up in the speed, but looking, if you dig a little bit deeper, we can actually see it, and I will show it to you in the other metrics. It shows actually perfectly in the velocity simulation. But let's take a look at other metrics. If we look at the closed field lines, we see them completely distorted when this happens. And this happens on both poles, by the way. The magnetosphere position is dropping, as you can see, and it is actually energized. There's clearly an impact on the bow shock, as you can see, but most noticeably is actually the blob of magnetic lines which happens in the tail. This caught my attention, and this is important because if you look actually at the other magnetosphere simulations, we see something happening in the tail. Let me go to the beginning. So we have a sustained solar wind stream at 450 kilometers a second, and as you can see, there it happens. But at some point, and I do believe this is when the density rises, the solar wind stream drops actually. It drops at the poles, as you can see, it starts here and goes into the tail. And this is not registered in actually the solar wind data, which is actually strange not to see a drop in here. But it happens, and this means it happens only in a portion of the magnetosphere, not entirely. So this is not really a slow moving part of the solar wind that hit us. No, this is something that happens here. And this might be a pileup of protons rather than an impact, but I'm not 100% sure. That could have been caused by this magnetic anomaly. Because if we look at the velocity, and I will do it frame by frame, we can clearly see slow moving parts which start actually at the poles, as you can see, and in the tail. And this dark red represent actually a slow moving area where the protons are actually very slow, having almost no velocity. And see, this happens while the solar wind, while we are still in that 450 kilometers a second, so we are still somewhere here, but something happens in the tail. So this is not an impact. I don't believe that this is the remnant of that CME of a few days ago. I think this is an anomaly caused by our own magnetic field, which has slowed down the particles. As to what kind of phenomenon this is, I have honestly no idea. Your guess is as good as mine. If we look at the other simulation at the density of that same magnetosphere simulation page, we can see that indeed it happens. It starts actually in the tail. We see slow moving parts. We see it here and we see it there. So I don't think this is an impact, because otherwise you will see it firstly in the front. I don't think this is an impact at all. So let's move on. By the way, if you do know what happened, because I could be wrong, I don't have a PhD in astronomy, so feel free to correct me. Don't be afraid to put a comment in the comment section. I really love to be corrected whenever this is needed. So, looking at the Schumann resonance, we see multiple impacts, and this has been caused a few days ago when that CME arrived. So you see that even only a glancing blow had signatures in the Schumann resonance multiple times, even in the next day. This indicates that that CME actually lasted until this period of time, and this is the reason why I don't believe that today this anomaly is being caused by remnant of that CME. I think it's rather really an anomaly happening in our own magnetic field. This is another proof of that. Looking at the earthquakes, so as you all know, I said in my previous video, there was an earthquake swarm in Iceland, in the Reykjavik region. And indeed, when I checked the Iceland geology blog, there is a massive swarm going on, and something caught my attention. Listen to this: deformation of the crust because of this earthquake activity has been detected by the Icelandic Met Office. Nothing suggests that magma has found a path to the surface so far. This is actually a very interesting blog, and if you want to visit it, this can easily be done by simply going to my web links in my blog, and I will leave a link in the description box as I always do, and you can find it on the Spaceweather links. This is actually a page that covers multiple categories of interest, and you can find it actually on the geology blocks section. It is the first one. So there you have it. So looking at the Met Office, this one is not in my list, but I will leave also a link down below in the description box so you can find it. We can clearly see that indeed there is a massive swarm going on in that region, in the Reykjavik plains as they call it. And this is basically, in my opinion, a volcano which had already activity, already earthquake swarms going on. And there could be one in the stage of erupting soon. So we have to monitor this particular region, especially when there is increased space weather events. Good news. The good news, people, is the Arctic oscillation becomes positive again. And this means less cold waves, more warm weather, both from Europe and the United States. And this is clearly evident because I told you can actually predict the weather just by looking at it. A negative phase means the cold of the Arctic spills over to the mid-latitudes. A more positive Arctic oscillation means the cold gets confined into the Arctic. And so this is actually good news. At this point, if you haven't already done so, don't forget to subscribe to my channel. Otherwise, you will miss my future videos. And that would make me sad. And don't hit the like button either if you actually liked this video, and I certainly hope you did. Yes, we arrive at the end of this video, and as usual, I will cite you a quote. The one who oppresses others is always a coward. So don't be a coward. If you are in a strong position, help the weak. Don't oppress them, because this will make you a coward, of course. This is it, people. This is the end of the video. I hope you liked it. And I wish you a fine evening. Take care, everyone. Be safe. Bye.